to a final thing of the week, which is going to Disney Plus and talking about Hawkeye. Now, this year, Marvel have decided, or Disney have decided, somebody decided anyway, and Marvel, they shut down a whole bunch of TV shows that had the Marvel moniker. So things that originally started with Marvel, things like Daredevil or Netflix and The Runaways or whatever channel that was, to bring everything in-house. Because what they wanted to start doing is they wanted to start making TV shows that linked very explicitly to the films in the MCU. So in 2021, we had WandaVision, we had Falcon and Winter Soldier, we had Loki, and the final one was Hawkeye. It came at the end of the year, and sure enough, this is a film that is set around, it's essentially set up like, almost like a Shane Black buddy Christmas comedy around about Christmas time. So the idea behind this is that you have Hawkeye, Clint Barton, who played by Jeremy Renner from the films. And when it kicks off, it's New York, it's around about Christmas time. He has gone out to New York with his kids. So from the films, you know that he has three kids, and he's taking them to New York. And the film starts off with the first time you see him, and I've spoken about this on the podcast before, he's on Broadway watching Rogers the musical, which is a musical about the life of Captain America. What is a simultaneously genius, hilarious, laughable, cringe-worthy scene. It's all those things at the same time when you're watching this number that they're performing on Broadway. At the same time as he's doing this, there's a character called Kate Bishop. And going back to the original Avengers movie, she was living in New York. She was in Manhattan when all the aliens attacked. And she saw from her window, she saw Hawkeye actually fighting these guys off with his bow and arrow, jumping off a building. And ever since that time, when she was a kid, she was probably around about 5 years old, she has idolized Hawkeye, and she has trained herself up to be like the best archer that possibly could be. She's learned martial arts. Her mother is like, oh, I cannot really control this girl's just out of control. But that's because she's like, no, Hawkeye, he is who I want to be. He's the kind of character I want. So she's set up her life to be like Hawkeye, and she's always trying to find trouble, and she's always trying to do the kind of things that Hawkeye would do. One day she is because her mom is quite well connected, and is kind of like, power, like, is a socialite. That's it. Her mom is a socialite in this sort of upper echelons of New York poshery, I guess you would call it. And they go to this fundraiser. She sneaks into the basement of the fundraiser, and she finds out that there's a black market auction going on there. And there's a black market auction of all this stuff from the Avengers compound that got destroyed by Thanos at the end of Avengers Endgame. So they've got all this Avengers stuff, like, oh, there's this thing that was used by this person, and Thor had this thing. And one of the things that they have is the outfits that Hawkeye, because this is going to be a massive spoiler for Infinity War, but the problem with Marvel now is that everything is so interconnected. You can't talk about any new thing without spoiling some old thing. So if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, I'm so sorry, I can't help you. But after what happened at the end of Infinity War with the snap, where all of Hawkeye's family was snapped out of existence, he became Ronin, and he went around the world essentially killing all the people that he thought, how the heck have good people disappeared and you are still around? So he became this sort of scourge of the underworld, where he went around killing all these people. But what they have in this underground auction is the original Ronin outfits. So they have the original Ronin outfit up for auction. While that's going on, there's an attack. Somebody blows up the wall, the wall, and obviously because Kate is like, I'm gonna be a hero. I want to be a hero, but she doesn't want her face to be seen. She puts on the Ronin outfit and she starts fighting all the bad guys. There's some of the bad guys go, oh my god, it's Ronin! He's back! The problem is that now Ronin has a long list of people who want Ronin dead because of what he did when he went around killing a whole bunch of people in the underworld. And when that happens, Hawkeye sees on the news that Ronin is back, and he immediately goes, whoever is in that costume is going to be in a lot of trouble because he knows what he did. He knows, so he goes and finds her, and then that's how you have Hawkeye meeting Kate Bishop, and then you go off on this adventure. And then the whole thing, the next 6 episodes are about them trying to figure out what's going on, who's connected, what we're going to do, how we're going to get rid of this mafia person, and Kate essentially learning how to be a hero. And Disney have done the usual thing, or Marvel have done the usual thing, where they've taken a TV series and they've used that to give a character that hasn't had much say in the films, or there's been too much going on in the films, to give this character a lot, and they've given this character a lot of heart and given them a lot of, and what they really make you realize is that everything that these characters go through in this film actually does have a consequence. In WandaVision, it was all about the fact that Wanda had experienced a lot of loss. She's experienced a lot of loss that you never really thought about because, hey, there's a building blowing up, yay! But so WandaVision was as much about grief as Hawkeye is almost about imposter syndrome, because Hawkeye, they mentioned it, he is the Avenger who should not be there. You have gods and you have people in like mecha suits and everything, and you have a guy with a bow and arrow, and it's like, what is he doing there? And it's like, and they mentioned that over and over again. He mentions it himself, and the idea as well. He also has survivor's remorse because of what happens with Black Widow in Endgame. So he's kind of like he's like essentially, why am I still here? And also the fact that they also point out the fact that you cannot spend your whole life running around explosions and expect to keep all of your hearing. So Hawkeye has a hearing aid in this. And there's all these little things that they've put in there to humanize the character, to actually make you realize that Hawkeye is there's a lot of stuff you can do with the character. I mean, the fact that Kate Bishop once says, look, the fact that we had aliens attacking the city and you weren't a god, you weren't a superhero, you had no powers, but yet you were still fighting in the middle of all this whole thing. And she's like, for me, that's the most like inspiring thing I've ever seen in my life. And you actually go, yeah. And I think
that takes more bravery than if you're a god going up against an alien monster than if you're an ordinary man.
Yeah, and I think that they really, I really like the way they did this in this. I really like the fact that they've given Clint Barton more. I like the fact that they brought Kate Bishop in. She's great. There's some characters like, let me put it this way, Florence Pugh shows up. She is in the TV show. And if you know,
Black Widow, the film,
she was in Black Widow. Yes, and the way things are going forward, you can see, you're beginning to realize, because remember when Black Widow was made and we were like, why did they make that film? This film is totally non-essential. And it was non-essential for what had happened so far in the MCU, but for where they're pushing things forward, there were some things that they seeded in Black Widow that are now coming back.
Right.
I think they made a whole movie that cost them millions and millions of dollars just to get Florence Pugh in the MCU. That's what I think. But all in all, I really enjoyed this. I'll give this a 4. I'll give it a 4. It has a sense of humor. It is, I don't think Jeremy Renner has ever been better. There's some great action sequences. There's one particular action sequence that reminds me of Children of Men, where they're in a car and the whole sequence is done almost like in one take. So it's like the camera goes into the car, goes back out of the car. The guys who are chasing them as they're firing the arrows and I think it was just a really, really, really well done sequence. Hailee Steinfield is brilliant as Kate Bishop. The repartee between her and almost everybody, between her and Jeremy Renner, it works. Between her and Florence Pugh, I want to see more of those two characters on screen together. There's a new character played by a lady called Alaka Cox. She plays a character called Echo. She's going to be having her own TV show very soon. And she is the first deaf actor. No, because there was one in Eternals. But she's deaf. She's deaf. She's Native American. She's going to get her own TV show. So Marvel is using these TV shows to expand the representation, which I think is all good. And I think her character is actually really, really good as well. So I really enjoyed the show. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I think that there are some things where whereas with the MCU, everything that they're doing right now, you're like, okay, what's coming next? And they have this habit of making you think what's coming next might not be the worst thing ever. It's like, oh, maybe I do want to see that. And they have some surprise cameos. One surprise cameo that links to a surprise cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home, which, as I said, it was not it's not the most high profile one, but it's the one that made me punch the air when I saw it in Spider-Man No Way Home. And they have something that links to that in this show. So yeah, all in all, 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it.